Ken, it's been a minute.
Wow, it seems like a long time. I don't know why.
But you missed us, so you came back.
You know what? That's it. That's it.
Yeah, we've had some scheduling issues, I think. Yeah. Not quite at the hour yet, so we'll give it another 2 minutes.
And at one point, we had to talk about the mini switch.
Okay. So as I sit here clicking on things, I just wonder, has anyone else ever had that experience watching a movie or a TV show where there's some sort of expert computer guy, and besides the fact you look at his screen and it's all text scrolling by as fast as you can imagine, but he is typing away like mad on the keyboard. And I think that nobody does that. Even the best computer people don't type on the keyboard all that much.
Right.
So where in the world did people get the idea that that is a computer geek, is someone who types like mad?
Or that keeps typing. You might like enter a command or something quickly and then be done. And
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, maybe 10 characters. Because
Right.
it's all in Linux or Unix. So it's really short. But yeah.
They're not typing a dissertation.
Yes. Yeah, and really cranking out the words. No mistakes. Never hits
Right.
the backspace.
It's a special role that is just for movies.
Yeah, I think so.
Bill Janes, hello.
Scout Mary, how we doing?
You know, I will tell you, so far, my day is grand. Well, other than I could have ridden this morning and I didn't. I thought it was going to be snowy because it snowed here. Um, but um, but I'm going to go ahead and start with my two wins for today. I saved an AAC machine by finding the smallest, like an eighth of an inch headed screw in the spring at the bottom of the battery compartment. Got it out with a random piece of thing that I have around my office. And both my printers are down. My Prusa I'd like to talk about, but my Creality was down, and I changed filament because I thought maybe it was that. That didn't work. Then I just did a system like check and leveled the bed, and now it's working. But you know, for me, that's a win. I went from no printers to one printer. But I'm gonna go ahead and here is my really unfortunate blob.
Ooh.
Yeah, it was massive. On my slow Prusa, it was a 2 hour print that failed probably in the first 15 minutes. But not at the first layer. But it is filled with black, like grease. And I know that's a terrible image. But the two wires that feed into the back, it was around those, and I just had to pull it out. So the casing around the wire, I think it melted or else it pulled back. But there's white wires that they're not like, it's not metal, but it is wires that I can now see that I shouldn't. So I have a big note. My coworker Stacy, who's on here today, has been printing with me. But we are not printing because I wanted to talk to people here and see what is my best move to get this printer up and running.
Your best move is to take a picture and then send it to info@prusa3d.com.
Okay.
Because they're available 24/7. They know
That's
that.
why I have a Prusa, right?
Yep. That's exactly why you have it.
Info at
Let me make sure it's Prusa 3D. I'm pretty sure .com, but let me check my phone book.
Okay. I will absolutely do that. And it's really hard to see, so taking a picture of it will actually be helpful because I've just been trying to get my head in the enclosure and look at it. And although my head is small, it is still a very tight fit to do anything in there.
Yeah, that was it. info@prusa3d.com.
Okay, I will do that. All right, look at that. Look at that, the customer support. I have now won my day, so anybody else can take over and, you know, go on with your winning things.
So I'll just add quickly so that I'm done with this. I did get a group in Cadillac, Michigan. I don't know why this is catching on something back there.
We're gonna do some palm reading for you, Ken.
I'm sorry. Yeah, exactly. The lifeline is very short. I don't know why this is so blurry. This is supposed to automatically focus.
It is. Just needs a second.
Yeah, maybe I'm moving it too much. Yeah, so I got a group at Wexford Misaki Intermediate School District in Cadillac, Michigan, to trial the proximity sensor
Awesome.
system, not on a walker, but on a gait trainer. And I've seen some initial video that they took, and it seems to be working. It's all initial because the student is just beginning to experiment with it. But I've got a call with them tomorrow to find out how effective it's really being, whether there are any changes in the design that'd be valuable. And if they think it's useful in some way, then I have several web pages, but I've been making them private for now, and then I'll make them public.
And what are the options for distance?
They're totally controllable by, well, there's probably a maximum
Yeah.
that the echo location aspect of it won't return the signal strongly enough, or maybe within the cone necessary. In fact, the further you go back, the wider your cone is. So yeah, that was my Alexa device telling me it couldn't help me with that. I shouldn't use that ECHO word, but anyway, there are some, but within, I would say within 3-4 feet and all the way down to just a few centimeters, it works pretty reliably.
Yeah. No, I was just wondering that further distance for people who walk a little faster might need that, you know, more time, but you can't control the cone, correct? Yeah.
Right. So the further you are from something, the wider your cone.
Right.
Therefore, the more things could trigger it.
Right. Makes sense. So that 2 to 3 feet is probably your kind of your sweet spot.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's why on a walker or a gait trainer, I don't think anybody's cruising that fast. Hopefully.
I'm actually just thinking of this a woman who uses a white cane and she was nearly running. You know, there's always that one off, but yeah.
Yeah, and I'd say I have this blurb in bold red, which I think in the Orient means wonderful. But in the East, in the West rather, it says, this is not intended for use on anything but a flat surface.
Right.
This
right.
tell you that you're near the top of the stairs. It won't do that. And please don't point things down to try and get you that feedback.
Right. Yes. Warning. Well, that's cool though that they're testing it out for you.
Right. Absolutely.
It's very cool. And remind us of the total cost, other than your time and expertise, of
that's free.
Of this setup.
Let me see. I think it's in the range of, oh man, I'd have to look at the webpage, but it's less than 100.
Okay, and to buy something like that commercially, did you recall?
Hundreds.
Yeah.
If you can find it, it's really hard to find anything like that anymore.
Yeah, probably because of liability, I would guess.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah. All right.
So leave it to DIY where there is no liability, right?
Yeah, but I mean, it's for certain things, it's just for certain applications, it's just the right device. All
Do it
right.
yourself, bring your own liability insurance.
Right. Yep. All right. Well, I suppose I did not officially start the meeting of the March. This is March Maker Roundtable, hosted by New Jersey Assistive Technology, moderated at this point just by me, unless one of you wants to be a co-host. Thanks, Jessica. Thanks for your support. Yeah, so we are just here to talk about problems, ideas, and resources. So with that, a couple of names that I don't know. Anybody want to jump in with anything, an introduction if you haven't been here, or a problem if you want to jump right into something like that?
Hello. I know I'm new. I will introduce myself. My name is Katie Robertson. A bunch of you probably know Chris Bouguet. I work for him. He's directly above me in Loudoun County Public Schools. And last year I discovered printable circuit boards and have been a menace ever since, and have taken many hours of Ken's time trying to figure out how to do this. I have started publishing instructables for how to make these. I made a proximity sensor, this little doodah, and I also used a time of flight sensor. Um, and today I made one with a PCB that can be wireless and Bluetooth. So I have the instructable up for the regular proximity sensor. I'm working on the one for the time of flight sensor, and I'll also do one for this because, of course, the printed circuit board that I started building everything on is now out of stock at Adafruit. So I had to pivot, and I was like, well, I may as well make it wireless and Bluetooth while I'm at it. So that's been a lot of fun. I hope to present on that at conferences later this year. And any advice you can give me about that, how I can make this more approachable to people. I really want my target audience to be the 60-year-old speech language pathologist who thinks that she can't do this. Because a year ago, if you told me that I could do this, I would tell you you were insane. And this entire journey has been so empowering to me and the student that can now control something for the first time in his life. We finally got him something. He's aging out in June, and he's going to age out with a proximity sensor that costs $25 that the family can customize, code, everything. And I want to empower other people to do the same, especially in districts that aren't as financially blessed as mine. So
Katie, that's it. That's it. You want to reach your target audience. Every presentation, proposal, and write up you put in there, I would never have believed that I can do this, and now I want you to know you can too. I will walk you through step by step or whatever it is. But
God bless ChatGPT, because
yeah,
it writes bad code, but at least I can copy and paste my errors into it and tell it, no, you're wrong.
yeah, but I mean, let people know that that's what you want to teach them. I think that you'll get a line for
Yeah,
sure.
I'll try.
And please put the link to your Instructable in the chat.
I will.
All right. Stacy, you want to say hi? I don't know if you're muted. I know she's got a mic because she gave me her extra. Okay, well, this is Stacy Brady. She is 10 feet from me in my office and has been helping me with 3D printing and does a bunch of other stuff that once she gets a mic, she can introduce herself. All right.
Or she
And
could
looks
walk
like we
over to
lost
your
her.
desk.
What's that?
Or she could walk over to your desk.
She could. She could. I will have to move my monitor back down because I am standing on a balance board and Stacy is not tall. So my whole desk is up. All right. I don't know how
Hey,
to.
Scout, can you guys hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, I just went to my headset. So, yes, I'm Stacey Brady. I'm helping Scout do stuff and looking up some new printables type of ideas and trying to help figure out how to modify a few things. And then I think at some point maybe we'll talk about a situation that arose in my own house with one of my kids. And
Yeah.
yeah, we'll save that for later.
Okay.
So,
Okay. And then Rich, you've been before, correct? But I think you're muted as well, Rich. No.
All right, how about now?
Yeah, we got you.
All right. Yeah, it's been a little while since I've been here, but I have a pretty heavy teaching load, so summers are usually my sweet spot.
All right, fair enough. We'll take you all summer. We we had a thing where we were thinking about stopping for the summer, but for at least some of us, the schedule doesn't change a whole lot. So good to have you back. And are you 3D printing, Rich?
I am, and actually, I had a similar problem to. I have a Prusa, had a similar kind of experience, and I was just very lucky. There's a guy that repairs 3D printers, so I brought it to him because I spent a few hours trying to fix it, could not do it. I was just afraid at some point I was going to make it worse. And then I just subcontracted the problem.
Yeah. Well, I mean, having a guy is a solution.
Yes.
Like I just haven't done it, but my guy is Ken. I was like, I'm just gonna ask Ken what to do next.
Having a guy or a gal, Kyle Ann, wasn't you that fixed this one? Because I don't think it was me.
think I helped.
Wow, everybody saves these, huh? That's nice. I never would have thought to save mine from way back when.
The worst one. I think, once
Oh,
you get like if I get a worse one, I'll probably ditch this one and keep the worst one.
okay, upgrading. Nice.
Yeah.
Ken, I
Right.
know filament is cheap, but there's so much filament into this that this is like worth money.
Oh my gosh, can I have a total aside? So I found precious plastics. Have any of you heard of this?
Yeah.
It is a way I went to recycling filament and got to precious plastics, which is this group uh recycling filament, but also just other plastics. Whew, I did go to my boss and say if I won the lottery, I would quit tomorrow and work on this because plastic is killing us. So, personal opinion. All right. So yeah, a little time suck. Jessica, what do you got today? You always got something.
There's a lot. I probably wouldn't even be able to tell you half the things because I'm like in like a mind block right now. I'm hungry. But so I got invited to a school in May. They want me to bring all my switch adapted stuff at the school for the blind. And it was crazy. Actually, a teacher that worked at one of the restaurants I go to saw one of my AAC shirts. It's like, oh, and that's kind of how it got the ball rolling.
Wow.
And then also, I am working on the tap switch with the micro bit. You know what I'm talking about, right? By Print
No,
Labs.
no.
This one.
Oh, are
I
those,
don't know this, but I want to know more.
yeah.
Well, I'm surprised because I feel like this has been all over the place. But
Yeah,
it's a
it,
Bluetooth switch,
that's what I was just gonna ask. Is it Bluetooth?
but it also kind of works like my other switches where it can just be like space or enter, but it can also be used for switch scanning.
Wow.
I assume that's most Bluetooth switches are like that, but I don't know.
Are you seeing the chat, Jessica? Katie's asking, is that a microbit?
Yeah, it's a micro.
Oh yeah,
I don't do good screen sharing, and then aha,
all the things.
yeah.
Yeah, if you'll put a link to that in the chat, that would be great.
Uh,
So who's 3D print? What parts are you doing on that?
well, that gets to the next big thing. So I was printing out my library, and they kept making stuff warp. So as we know, I've been printing my switch tops. They're the ones
Right.
I can get printed. And then they kept warping out, and the ones Ken did actually turned out pretty good, except for being stringed out. My dad just cut off the strings, and it worked still pretty much the same.
Mm-hmm.
So, Ken, thank you for sending me that. But I said, well, this can't be right. The things I get from Eric work, and the things I get from Ken work, but anything I get at the library sticks. So I reached out to the library and I said, hey, is there anybody local that does 3D printing? And they was like, yeah, there's this guy that lives like right across the street from the library. So he started 3D printing for me. I made some switch tops for him to print out because I've been starting to play around in Tinkercad and make like images and like textures for the top of my switches.
Nice.
Trying to find Instagram. It's like it's just a mess.
Yeah, while we're on this topic, I did print several switches for Jessica, and like we've talked to this person before. What's the name of the company?
Switched.
Switched. Okay, so I think he even came to one of the meetings, and
Yeah.
he's produced this very small switch, just in dimensionality. It's like his bigger switches, just been reduced in scale. And I discovered something interesting about printing when trying to print his switches. So it mostly has to do with the overhangs associated with the threads on the switch. And if you're dealing with threads on the outside of a cylinder, so the print head is going around this way, around the outside, then, well, actually, it's going to go around like this regardless, so that doesn't help, does it? It's going around the outside of the cylinder. There are no problems. It produces, even with very large overhangs, so we're exceeding 75 degrees, 80 degrees on these overhangs, because Prusa makes a decent printer. It has no trouble. But once you go to print the threads on the inside of the cylinder, now the movement is such that if the overhang is too great and the thread of filament doesn't have a good base to stick to, because it's not pulling back on itself like an outside thread, it just jumps across to the next point. So you'll get lots of places where the filament didn't stick because there just wasn't enough underneath it because of the overhang, and it'll jump across. And I think basically, and this would be the feedback I provide him, go to a smaller thread. He's got very huge threads, so they produce huge overhangs for long distances. So just reduce the size of the thread, reduce the increase the thread count, I guess, for a certain height, and reduce the thread depth. But yeah, it was. I printed multiple times. It was very hard to get anything that didn't disconnect at spots and reconnect somewhere further in the print.
Huh.
Now, does it do that with the regular top? Because like the medium sized one,
You know, I
because
don't
I
know.
always get that printed everywhere, and the
Yeah,
only issue I've ever had at the library is it getting warped, and you press it
right.
down and it just stays down.
You know, if I printed that, I don't remember running into a problem. But again, the problem here is that it's got a much tighter radius. So it's trying to turn faster than a larger footprint.
Kind of makes sense. So
Yeah.
like the Mega one, except for all the supports, the Mega one would probably work the best. The 3D
Possibly.
printer.
Again, I'd have to look at the STL file to see what kind of supports are necessary. Um, there are lots of support challenges with his top.
Oh, that's what I was going to ask. So you can't print it with supports and with that small one and still make it work properly.
Yeah, well, you're going to have the problem with the overhangs regardless.
Right.
But the fact that it's spanning large distances across the top, you really have to print it with the top of the top up.
Right.
Otherwise, you have to provide all kinds of supports internally for the special ring that's inside. It's a
ring and you pop it in.
Yeah, or you pop it in. But the ones we were printing, it wasn't popped in. It was part of the print in place. It was print in place.
Yeah, it's print in place, and then when you're done with it, I think I might have had to do that with yours. You just go pop it in.
Yeah, so providing it needs to move freely inside, so and printed in place, and it's so depending on how you print it, what orientation you need, you either need lots of internal supports to keep it up in the air, or you need to support a large span of the switch top across a distance. And I was able to do that with paint on supports in Slicer. In Prusa Slicer, I don't know if you've ever, your face tells me you have never seen that, Scott, but yeah, you can specifically say where you want the supports to appear.
Wow.
So you don't have as much of a cleanup and mess as a result. Yeah, I'm just thinking to improve his design, he'd need to change the threading when he gets to a smaller and smaller footprint.
And he probably just didn't think about it. He just made it, shrunk it down. Yeah.
It's simple to scale, right?
Yeah.
But anyways, I have the new official 3D printer person for what I do now. So now I can hopefully start doing more. Because at the library, the rules were like 2 things a week. If it's messed up, you get it messed up. We're not gonna fix it.
It's too bad the
So
library can't print well. I'm surprised.
well, and the funny part is the guy that I moved to, he's the one that donated the 3D printers and has been helping them.
Huh. That's what I was thinking, that it was just like they don't have the right support. But if he knows about 3D printing, it is interesting that they're still having all those problems.
Yeah, but anyways, the library had a lot more stricter rules. This guy, literally, if it fails, he'll actually do it over again with the library. If it fails, you just get the failed product and you have to pay for it. So it's really not a good deal.
You still have to pay for it?
I believe so. I'll bring up the website. He had crazy
Yeah.
strict rules.
Huh. Interesting.
I totally get how obnoxious that is. And like having no insight into a library's budget, I can imagine reasons why they would have to do that.
Well, especially
It's
if you're
obnoxious, but I get it.
Yeah, if you're designing your own print and you can't design and it fails, then it's on you. But if it's on the printer, it seems, but yeah, they get to make their rules.
They kind of bent the rules a little bit for me because I was building for AT.
Yeah.
So
good.
like if I knew that if I said there's probably going to be an issue, they would try and 3D print it multiple ways, and I just wouldn't have to like be paid for the extra. Had to pay for the extra one they did, but I'm pretty sure they wouldn't have done that for anybody else.
Right.
But now I'm planning on making a lot more to Maker's Making Change stuff. Like this tap switch, I wouldn't have been able to make that because this is like 5 pieces. So I'd have to wait 3 weeks to get all the parts.
Wow.
So I'd literally get 2 pieces and I'd have to wait a week. And also this guy is like $2 cheaper too.
Well, good. I'm glad you found him. Have you considered asking Ken for some bliss symbols to take to your school?
Ken?
Oh,
I
yeah,
don't know, because they
yeah,
kind of like they've been watching my Instagram and Facebook, so
Uh-huh.
they kind of want to see what I bring.
right,
Yeah.
right.
But we could bring that, it would just be hard.
Yeah, it kind of has to be something that you can talk about. So,
Yeah,
Makes
so
sense.
so probably not.
yeah, so bliss symbols will probably be harder. Key guards, if they
Mhm.
already know about 3D printed key guards, well, then there's nothing to show them. But
Yeah,
if they haven't got that, that's the wellspring. That's not the right word. What is it? That is the gold. That is the vein of gold throughout this entire thing. Well, I'm really, really struggling for metaphors here, but if you're looking for something that really proves itself fast, it's key guards.
yeah.
Fair enough.
But they're all excited about my Switch, and I have to bring one more thing up.
Okay.
So I've been downloading, I asked for permission first, luckily, but I've been downloading Switch tops from Switched into Tinkercad,
Mm-hmm.
and they're not the prettiest, but I've been making like tactile and like high contrast tops that you can screw on. So I'm going to plan on getting those printed. These are actually the colors I want to get it 3D printed. I'm kind of like taking it from like switches you can buy and kind of like taking those ideas.
Nice.
And then
Very
I've also,
cool.
for the tap switch, if it loads, I made, it's like there's little hooks that go on in a microbit. So I was just playing around and making themed tops. So that's like a cat themed. Ron would like that.
Yeah. Very nice. And your guy will print in 2 colors.
Yeah, he can print up to 4 colors actually. That's another thing. The library could only print in 1 color.
Yeah.
Well, this kind of printing, you could print in an infinite number of colors if you want, because it's just
Yeah.
layer by layer. Uh,
Mm,
it's just a pain to be swapping filaments.
yeah. Well, that's pretty much it for me, other than my ankle's getting better and I'm starting to ride my scooter and swing and still have to do physical therapy and I hate it.
Hey, could I add one more thing, Scout? A, a, a miracle happened a couple months ago. Well, not a month ago. Uh, I was I received an email from a software developer entrepreneur in New Zealand who said that his one of his people working for him, a speech therapist, had come to him with my ATIA article. And he said, "Oh, wow, this is exactly what I'm doing."
Are you talking about the AI
Yeah,
communication?
the generative AI
Yeah.
based AAC. He said, "This is exactly what I'm doing. I want your boss to hear about this, Scout." The guy who said, "Oh, this will never happen." Um, but yeah, so he has a product. He just went out into the market for browser based, and um, and he shortly will have an iOS based one, and then add an Android based one. Um, I met with him. He showed me how to create. In the beginning, it's free to use in the browser based version, um, but it looks like a standard AAC app until you say, uh, start giving me suggestions, and then it starts listening to the conversation. and it makes elements of the conversation part of what it, plus some information you give it about you, it makes that part of a prompt to ChatGPT. And it comes back with a set of 3 responses that you can choose among, and then it will vocalize those. And I tell you, it was exciting to see this thing actually built. My user interface demo does some things that his doesn't, but it's just fake. His is really doing it. So if anybody wants to look, you just look for, I got the link here for somewhere. I can put it in the chat, but it's called ALEK, ALEK. So let me look at it real quick. Oh, yeah, ALEK Assist is the name of the company. Let me put this in the chat.
That's pretty amazing.
Yeah, this was very exciting. So I'm giving a presentation on the topic at the Colorado Assistive Technology and Education Conference coming up in June. And I've already submitted a proposal to another one, OcaliCon, and I'm just submitted to Closing the Gap on this topic. I'm really excited to include his product as part of the demo or as part of the presentation.
Yeah, I bet. I bet he's kind of excited too.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
Congratulations,
really
Ken. Way to see the future. That's great.
right.
And,
Like, and we can say we were there at the beginning.
yeah, you were there at the beginning saying, yeah, it ain't gonna work. No,
It'll never work.
It'll never work. Yeah, and it's again, it's always interesting to see how much progress can be made if you don't care who gets credit.
Yeah. Or who can make the most money.
Right. Yeah. If all you care about is the end result, doesn't matter.
Yeah, that's very cool. That's
When I told friends and family what I was doing with these little printed circuit boards that just have Raspberry Pis in them, they were like, "Oh my God, you should patent that." And I'm like, why? Why would I do that? I have not invented any of this. I just put them together and got ChatGPT to write me some code. It's so much better when everything is open source. 100% agree with Ken. That's how we grow, how we learn.
And there's a whole piece of this called the business side that people don't really understand and take into account about the cost and the additional skills that are needed to make that to actually start seeing money come in. So yeah, it's easier to just say, hey, let me be an idea person and prove something in, and then go for it.
yeah. Or just the I just want to be the hands that put it together, that go from this information to this need. I'm just the middleman putting it together or pushing the button print or whatever. Yeah. That's a
Hey,
great
Katie,
spot to be in. Yeah.
do you mind if we go all the way back to your plan to present what you've been making?
Yes.
Just as someone who reviews a lot of conference submissions, a couple of things to think about to help your case there. And also being an OT who does not do that kind of work, I actually had to sit here and think, like, what is the application of your proximity sensor? And even when I looked at your link, I'm still not entirely sure what devices this would be great for. So just know that even though you know it, the reviewer might not have a clue. So make that super clear to them. And then Dory Zakin is an OT at the Boston Collegiate Charter School who did a talk at ATIA this last year where she did a talk kind of similar to what you described. And I'll put her name in the chat here. I'll try to find her email. But hers was about 3D printing. And her whole point was I did not think this was something I could do. And then I realized how easy it is. And here are the tools I used to get me here. And actually, I don't know how much funding you have, but like She encouraged people, bring your own laptop, and I'm going to walk you through like hand holding how to do a very, very simple thing, a very simple example of this. And it was really cool. It was one of the better talks I've seen on 3D printing because she got into like the scary part, which is the CAD design. And so the stuff
Yeah.
that exactly what you said, like the showing people how easy it is to do. She had a really neat way of doing that with a simple example and might be able to help you think through how to write a really good submission on that.
I will definitely reach out to her. Thank you. I would love to have the components available for people to do this. Unfortunately, right now, the funds are all coming out of my own pocket because to get money from my district, I have to go through like 5 different people. This kid's aging out in June. Ain't nobody got time for that. So right now, the funding source is Miss Katie. So, but I would love to lead a workshop, and Adafruit actually does have an educator discount for like over $250 purchase. So that is something I would love to do in the future, to sit down, troubleshoot with people. Like, I don't know, let's ask ChatGPT. Oh, I think ChatGPT is lying to us. Let's go look at the tutorials on the Adafruit page because they detail out everything and like really work through it with people. So that's a really good idea. But yeah, I will definitely emphasize the fact that I didn't think I could do this and figured out that I could, and also explicitly explain what the application is for the proximity switch, or one of the applications for the proximity switch, because really there are so many people
Totally.
set up little weather stations with this. There are applications outside of just accessibility as well. So you can use the same tools to do all kinds of different things and get all kinds of different data that you can measure for all kinds of different purposes. So thank you very much. That's some excellent insight. Sorry for all the noise. I'm in a very happy, busy high school makerspace, which we love to see it.
Good.
Yeah,
Cool.
it's great that it's busy. Yeah.
Yes, it's full of kids that are removing supports and painting things and eating lunch and printing toasters and all kinds of good stuff. Happy times.
Nice. Anybody else? Kylan, Bill, you want to share anything? Veronica, anything you want to?
I would like to ask for a little bit of input from folks on something. So my kind of win for the week is I've been asked to record a podcast interview by AOTA, the American Occupational Therapy Association, about potential uses of, or about making assistive technology specifically via 3D printing in OT. And so the interviewer actually took a lot of time to go through a bunch of the papers that Kyle Ann and I have written and that some others have done, and had some really thoughtful questions. But I'm just curious if anyone has any real standout specific points you would want OTs to hear, to think about before they start into 3D printing, beyond just save your biggest failures.
Well, I'm excited to hear because I'm going to talk to some OTs in Springfield in a couple of weeks.
So I have some slides that I originally put together for my talk on 3D printing in AT. And one of them has to do with, several of them have to do with 3D printing isn't necessarily the answer. And sometimes it's completely the wrong answer. And
100%.
And I'd be happy to share those with you, but it comes from my having come across an article from some OT pace style journal or something like that, where I think it was titled OT Professors Discover the Value of 3D Printing Crutch Tips.
Exactly.
But OMG.
Right.
Do you guys have any understanding of this technology at all? Oh yeah, you're going to save $4 per crutch tip, and you're going to cost yourself $100,000 the first time that thing breaks, or doesn't provide the coefficient of friction that you need, or whatever. Yeah, so there are things that I'll send you the slides, but
I appreciate that. And I think my tongue-in-cheek answer, I started kind of putting bullet points for what my responses might be to his questions. One of them is, what would you say to an OT who's thinking about doing this? And my first response was, don't. And then going into basically just that, Ken, that you need to know a lot about the technology you're using. It's just one medium among many. And there are plenty of instances where it is not the right way to go. And that you have to keep in mind your own scope of practice and know what your actual skill set is and your own limitations before you dive into it. Totally agreed.
Yeah, I think the what not to print is the almost like you said, Bill, the way to start. And I think it has been said before at our annual conference, we had a 3D printing session where he did talk about printing crutch tips and I believe it was Bill and Kyle and myself, and we each had either different sessions. I don't know which year it was, but both of us were just like, and that's not what you print. It's like, sorry, you're a colleague, but yeah, yeah, what not to print. I mean, I think for OTs, like, well, I love this one, Kyle Ann. I think you redesigned this. You know, I think openers, you know, grip issues. To me, those are a great OT tool. You know, like or that kind of fits that realm. The blister pack opener, any of those things. Even the bag carrier, they're all things that deal with grip to me, or writing aids are another, I think, great place to think about the supports because they're doing that thing, that kind of external task that is not really support at all involved. I mean, that's the way I frame it, is anything that has to deal with your body support, whether it's even a wheelchair supports or anything like that, is potentially something to avoid because we can't think, unless it is our job to specifically do that, we can't think of all the ways it could go wrong.
And that extends to all those electronic parts that you put in there that I'm doing and Katie's doing. You know, unless you really understand the electronics of the and the way they can fail, you know, don't make the safety of the individual dependent on, number one, your 3D printing design or your electronics design. There are professional companies who have entire safety departments that look at all the ways this could go wrong. And we don't spend any time or very little time doing that ourselves. We're too busy moving on to the next thing. And we also don't carry liability insurance, but they have to. That's what makes them commercial. That's why they have to bring in income.
Yeah.
Yeah, at the very least, you have to think, what's the fail state, right? If and
Yeah.
when this, not if, when this breaks, how is it going to break and what's the result going to be?
Right, right. That's a really good way of phrasing that. I'm going to steal that.
Well, another thing that I would probably think about touching on would be just like acknowledging the limitations of clinical reality, and that, you know, a lot of OTs don't have the time to learn these skills to maintain a printer, but that doesn't mean that they can't still be involved in OT or in 3D printing. Like, you don't have to be doing the printing to be, you know, educating patients about these options, teaching them how to request devices through Makers Making Change or something similar. Things like that. Like, they can still use it in practice without being the ones doing it.
Right. That's a
like
good point.
resources to like libraries often have 3D printers and people can request prints for themselves. Things like that, workarounds so that their patients can access the devices without having to do the printing themselves.
Yeah, or like even just you know, if they want to get into 3D printing, you know, just no, I'm not going to modify. I'm only going to print this. This is my catalog. Until it changes, this is what I'm doing. You know, making it doable, as opposed to, I think, trying to anything that comes across, trying to fix any issue. I think, you know, it can lead us down wonderful rabbit holes, but sometimes it is just a long distraction. Like I, go back to our arm thing that took up one whole Maker Roundtable, but it was interesting. And I don't know, someday it'll resurface and maybe I'll get somebody to make it commercially.
First, I want you to trial that wheelchair ramp, that portable wheelchair ramp that I'm thinking about, Scott. Okay?
Okay?
Because there
Okay.
can't be any problem with that.
No, that mean it's, fail proof, right?
Right.
Yeah, my portable wheelchair ramp was made out of rigid foam insulation. That went wonderfully because it only ended up being, like as big as me. Lightweight though.
Yeah, and if you fell on it, you're okay.
Right. Right. All kinds of things that we, have good ideas, maybe only mediocre ideas. Kyle Ann, since we seem to have a small lull, or anybody, this opener, which I very much love, and I want to stop printing my other opener. However, this one, so I'm asking, this one, I try to size my prints because I often work with older people to work with a bottle of Ensure and also a bottle of the protein drink, the same, basically the generic version that you can buy at Sam's and Costco, right? So those are my ends of the spectrum that I want to open with my openers I offer to the area agencies on aging. This one will not all the way get around the Ensure, which is kind of big. Is it possible to add another layer to this? I know that you extended the handle, but that was the only way I could see that to make this one work was to add one more layer. And I don't know, maybe you have to take the top layer off to add the bottom layer, and then do I lose out on,
Is this
whatever.
Is this a CAD question, Scott? Interested more in, is it feasible to try to do 4 things with the same device, or because I mean, if it's just I need something that'll open a larger thing, well, give them a second opener. But
Right. And that's what I'm doing now. But I would love, so what my goal is to get rid of my other design, which is the kind of the swoopy big U design, that you can print 35, 40, 45, 50. And we are printing various sizes of that, but we often don't meet with the end user. And so if they don't realize what size they need, I want to get rid of that design. I want to have a design that will do those two sizing for me, the protein drinks in one opener. And so this is my favorite opener. So I'd love it if this did that. That's why I'm, yes, throwing it out to this group, because I don't want to redesign this. I mean, I suppose I could just drag it and make it bigger and be done, right?
but
That
then your
would be
small
the
size is going to be, you're changing everything, Scott. So your small size isn't going to be the small size anymore.
right, but I don't need the smallest one. I mean, I know if I drag it and make it bigger, that's why I was asking, what would be the implications if another layer was added?
I don't think there'd be any implications other than the handles would get thick enough that you couldn't get your hand around them. But I don't see any implication. But Scott, how are you going to meet the needs of the people in Texas? That's too large for a one of those hot spice bottles. Whatever. What do they call that stuff?
Oh, hot sauce?
Hot sauce bottle.
Tabasco.
It's way too big for a hot sauce top.
That's
So-
what the tube opener is for.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean,
There's a wide variety of things people want to open, depending on.
no, I totally get that.
Yeah.
But this for me, for drink lids, and I
So Scott, the other thing I would mention, first of all, when you buy them through some some sale on Amazon. They'll sell you, it will come and be a package of many sizes. It's just how they've solved this in the commercial world. The other way they solve it, I've seen, is where you actually have a rubbery band that you can pull through some retainer, and that
Yes.
changes the size of the grip.
No, I totally get. I'm not trying to have one device to solve everything by any stretch. I have a tube opener,
Okay.
you know, and that'll do a small size water bottle as needed. But this one, I wanted to do just from those for those two parameters, the generic protein to the Ensure. That's what I was hoping for, but it's just a little small for the Ensure. I can get it around, but it won't.
So time out.
Yep.
Sorry, time out. This was originally a question to Kyle Ann, who has tried to do this.
Okay.
Who has worked on this exact question.
So you need to tell Ken and I just to shut up and let Kyle Ann talk.
Yes.
So I'm not sure that I've tried this exact application before, but I think that would be very doable for trying at least. I think it would be a simple design, and I think it is smart to try to find one device that'll fit as many needs as possible. We know that the evidence is the more devices people are given, the less likely they are to use any of them. So I think it's smart to try to get one for as much as you can. Certainly it won't fit everything. Have you taken measurements of the range of diameters that you
I
need?
haven't yet. I figured if this was something that you were willing to look at or somebody was volunteering, then I could do that. I do now own calipers. And then it could be more of a direct conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually am heavy in writing. I haven't been able to do much 3D printing because I'm trying to wrap up a million projects, but I have a new GA that I need to train on 3D printing anyway. So maybe this seems like a pretty simple project. I could work with her as kind of a training exercise.
Yeah, well, and actually, so Stacy was messaging me because I have one more thing that I was thinking a graduate assistant might be perfect for, if I may take the last couple minutes. So the blister pack opener, that is also a fantastic design. Stacy was looking at, it won't, the hole is too small for a chewable tablet for her son. And so we were kind of just brainstorming ways that it could be modified to do that for a large chewable pill. And so if I'm Rich, I don't know what you teach, but you know, in my middle row here, I have Bill, Rich, and Kyle Ann. And if any of you have students that would be interested in doing this modification, Stacy and I, again, we could have a direct conversation. Thoughts?
I'm teaching a class this semester with OT and BME students. They're working on projects just like this. So yeah, that would absolutely be something I could throw out to them.
Awesome. Are
I
you
would
willing
also
to play? Yeah.
say, you can reach out to your local high schools and their robotics teams. There are pockets of high school kids that know so much. They know so much. And in my county, they have to do like a community service project as part of their graduation requirement.
Wow.
So they could get credit for doing something like this too. Bill Binko has a whole video up on his AT Makers channel about how to get in with your robotics team, because I think they have a thing where if they do like a service project, they are automatically qualified to go to the national competition for robotics. So there's something, especially if there's something in it for the students, if they get some kind of credit, obviously the good feelings that come from helping someone else, but if there's also some other benefit in it from them, you could really get a lot of buy-in.
Great. I will absolutely go watch Bill's video on how to get in with the clubs. Stacy's got school age kids and has a better chance of doing that than I do. But Rich, if you wouldn't mind dropping your email in the chat, I would also throw this out, like, thank you. To me, I'm not opposed to having multiple people working on a project. Stacy, anything else that you want to throw in there?
The only thing that I noticed is that the particular, it's an allergy medicine and it's a round one. And so what we noticed on the blister packs is they're more oval in shape. And I can't just simply widen it because that's going to throw all the distortion and everything else off, potentially causing the blister pack itself to just fall through. So
Yeah. So we'll reach out in a couple of places and see what we get. Unless Ken, you
Hey,
want to
Scout.
take this up? Yeah.
Sorry, you might also, back to yours, you might want to just search Thingiverse for jar opener, because there are variations on that bottle opener with a wider mouth, which we have done before also.
Okay, I will do the search. Although, there is the one complication is that, you get attached to some things, and I am attached to this. Stacy's like, well, we could do this, and I'm like, I will search. I am willing to be flexible.
I think I might have just found one that you should look at.
All right.
I'll just share my screen. That's going to be easier.
So similar design. It doesn't look like it has teeth on the inside, which is also
It does
interesting.
not. Yeah.
Those
Yeah, we've looked
rings,
at that one.
yeah, those rings are supposed to be printed in like, is it TPU? It's a
TPU.
different
Yeah.
material. And we tried it before we had TPU, and we tried lining the rings with a grippy material, and that did not work. But I haven't tried it since we got
Yeah,
it.
I am not gonna print at work. I'm not gonna regularly print at work with TPU. Just it is in the office of two of my coworkers, so that makes it not doable for me.
Sure.
But it's good to look around and see if I find something that will just be a nice print.
Yeah,
All right. Well,
what are you hearing about TPU that's got you
oh,
concerned?
I thought it pretty much had to be vented or
No, not at
no?
all. Not at all. No, its data sheet says it's pretty safe all
Okay.
around. You wanna vent ABS, but TPU, there's no problem there.
Okay. All
It's
right.
just
Well,
harder. It's just a little bit harder to print with. That's all.
why is that? What
Well,
makes
because it's flexible, so it doesn't feed through a Bowden tube very well. You have to have some control over the tension on the feed gears, but yeah.
okay. Yeah, and I don't know. I mean, I don't know that much about my printer, quite frankly. And I want to do what I had just said, like stay in my skill set and grow my skill set as well. But um, yeah, and this maybe is the reason to grow my skill set and learn a little bit more about the printer and how to print TPU. Who
It's
knows?
my
We'll see.
second favorite filament.
What?
It's my second favorite filament after PLA.
PLA. Yeah, I have, I like the flexibility. I like that idea. So I don't know. Maybe I'll learn more.
It's also indestructible.
I do like that.
what
Yeah.
about PETG? Because we found a design that would go on a stylus, but it has to be capacitive, and PETG seems to be what's necessary for that.
Yeah, PETG has no capacitive functionality. It's basically PLA with a little bit wider temperature ability, and it has its own issues. It's a little stringier, but it's just an upgrade for certain people over PLA with less color choice.
But you can get capacitive PETG, is that right?
Oh, you can get capacitive PLA.
Oh, really?
Oh,
Yeah, I have a roll that I haven't used since my stylus times, but yeah, Protopasta sells a capacitive PLA. They probably sell a capacitive PETG. These are just whatever filament is going to carry the additional carbon content.
Right. Huh, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that standard PETG doesn't conduct anything.
Sure.
right.
It's
We
a
were looking
a
at
special blend that you'd have to order.
Right, but I guess
Right.
we thought only we didn't know that PLA had a capacitive option.
Well, it depends on the
Right.
manufacturer, right? So yeah,
Right.
yeah, Protopasta is where I bought mine. It's like twice as expensive to buy this kind of stuff. It carries some electrical charge. It has a high resistance, so you can't use it for electronics projects.
Right, but just for a stylus, just for putting a cap on a stylus, basically, is what we were looking for.
Right. NIH has a design that we were interested in that works on the cosmonaut stylus. So that's
And
why
I
we
have a design. I have a design for capacitive stylus. A 6-finger stylus doesn't require 6 fingers, of course, but it comes in a variety of orientations based on what your needs are. Design your own kind of thing too.
Yeah, and yours is the whole stylus, right? Like you're printing. Yeah,
Oh,
we could look into that as well. We were just looking at a cap for an already like it looks like a toddler crayon, the stylus does, and we were putting a cap on that. Anyway, we are past our